There is a quiet pattern some people live with, a strange, invisible habit that isn't loud enough to be called a problem, but subtle enough to follow them everywhere. When something good happens, they lower their eyes. When progress arrives, they shrug. When a win finally belongs to them, they step aside as if it were meant for someone else. It looks like humility from the outside. But on the inside, it feels like an old tension rising, a familiar discomfort in the chest, as if joy requires permission they never learned how to grant. Some people avoid celebrating their wins, not because they don't want to feel proud, but because pride is a language they were never taught to speak. Recognition/emotional beginning. There is a moment right after something goes well when the body tries to feel proud. A soft lift in the heart, a small spark in the mind. But for some, that spark is quickly smothered. They look away from their accomplishment, the way someone looks away from their own reflection in a window. Because something about it feels too intimate, too exposing, too much. They don't announce their achievements. They don't tell people what they've done. They tuck their victories inside themselves, the way someone hides a fragile object before it breaks. To the world, they seem modest. Inside, they are quietly disconnected from their own growth. Every win feels like a secret they don't know how to hold. This pattern rarely begins in adulthood. It often takes shape in childhood, in those years when the mind believes everything it hears and absorbs every silence as truth. Some grew up in homes where praise was rare, where accomplishment was met with a nod or a comparison or an expectation to do more. For others, celebrating themselves was labeled as arrogance. Every moment of joy was dimmed by a warning. Not to get too full of yourself, not to shine too brightly, not to make others uncomfortable. And some learned to swallow their excitement because someone else needed the attention more. A sibling, a parent, and a fragile household dynamic, where their wins felt like burdens. That shifted the delicate balance of the room, so they learned the safest posture. Stay quiet, stay small, stay unnoticeable. The child who grows up minimizing their joy often becomes the adult who fears the weight of it. Psychology describes this tendency through patterns like self-effacement, imposter syndrome, and learned unworthiness. The brain adapts to emotional environments, the same way it adapts to physical ones. If celebration once brought discomfort, shame, or rejection, the nervous system now associates achievement with danger. Dopamine tries to rise, but old neural pathways interrupt the signal. It's not a conscious choice. It's a conditioned response. Some avoid celebrating wins because praise feels unfamiliar. The brain resists what it cannot categorize. Others protect themselves from disappointment. If they celebrate too soon, too loudly, too openly, something might go wrong. So they stay neutral, preserving themselves from the fear of loss, by never fully embracing the moment of gain. And some carry a quiet, persistent belief that they don't deserve good things. When the world finally offers them something beautiful, they hold it like something borrowed, instead of something earned. The psychology is complex, but the feeling is simple. Joy feels unsafe. Inside, there is a split. Part of them longs to feel proud. The other part whispers that pride is not for them. They replay their success, not with admiration, but with scrutiny. They notice the flaws, the almost mistakes, the moments they stumbled before the moment they succeeded. When someone congratulates them, they shrink. They deflect. They redirect the praise toward luck, timing, or coincidence. They don't reject the compliment. They simply cannot absorb it. It slides off them like water off glass. And beneath it all, there is a fear that celebrating will change how others see them. That joy will make them loud. That pride will make them selfish. That confidence will make them vulnerable to criticism, jealousy, or exposure. So they keep their excitement hidden, quietly protecting themselves from the world and from the parts of themselves they do not yet trust. But there is often a moment when the pattern becomes visible. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just a quiet recognition. They notice how easily they dismiss their own effort, how their shoulders tense when something goes right, how quickly they move on to the next task, without pausing to breathe in the moment they created. The realization comes slowly, like light creeping into a room before sunrise. They begin to see that avoiding celebration does not keep them safe. It keeps them separate from the life they are working so hard to build. They notice the hollowness that follows their achievements, the way joy fades before it ever fully forms. And in that noticing, a new understanding emerges. They are not avoiding pride. They are avoiding vulnerability. Celebration is exposure. It is letting the world see what matters to you. It is allowing yourself to feel the weight of your own progress. For some, this is the first time they realize how deeply they've been hiding. Healing does not begin with loud celebrations. It begins with gentle recognition, a small nod, a quiet smile, and a moment of stillness that says, "This mattered to me." The work is not about becoming someone who announces every achievement. It is about allowing the body to feel what the mind has earned. Over time, the nervous system rewrites itself. New pathways form. Dopamine receives its full release. The brain learns that pride is not a threat, but a reflection of growth. Some learn to share their wins, not to seek validation, but to feel connected to their own journey. Others keep their celebrations private, but no longer deny them. They sit with the warmth of accomplishment, without shrinking from it. Healing looks like acknowledging effort without apology. It looks like recognizing that joy is not evidence of arrogance, but evidence of being alive. Little by little, they learn that celebrating a win does not make them undeserving or boastful or exposed. It makes them human. In the end, the psychology of people who avoid celebrating their wins is not rooted in weakness. It is rooted in history, in memories the body still carries, in lessons the mind learned too early and held for too long. But patterns are not fate. There comes a day when the quiet person finally recognizes their own reflection, not as an imposter, but as someone who has been trying for years, someone who has survived far more than they ever admitted, someone who has earned moments of light, even if they don't always know how to stand in it. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, they begin to let themselves feel proud, not loudly, not publicly, sometimes not even visibly, just a soft, private warmth that rises in the chest and whispers a truth they once feared. You're allowed to feel this. You're allowed to acknowledge this. You're allowed to receive the joy you once learned to turn away from, because every quiet victory is still a victory. And every win, no matter how small, deserves a moment of breath before the world pulls you forward again.